All right. All right. So here we're going to start with this unit 3. So first is the balanced budget multiplier. Now, they always ask a question on this on the AP exam. I would assume there'll be a question like this on the final. And that's when you increase both government spending and taxes. What will happen? Well, one, government spending is always going to override it. Why? Because the government spending multiplier is bigger than the tax multiplier. But say you increase them both by 100. Aggregate demand will increase by 100. If you increase them both by 1,000, aggregate demand will increase by 1,000. So the balanced budget multiplier is whatever is the number that's getting increased or decreased, well, increased here, aggregate demand will increase by that number. And again, it's the same if you do it the other way. If you decrease government spending by 1,000 and decrease taxes by 1,000, aggregate demand will decrease by 1,000. That's the balanced budget multiplier. Got to be wary. Anytime they give you government spending and taxes, remember the government spending multiplier is bigger. I'm going to do a lot of talking today, so if you have questions, just yell out and stop me. All right, crowding out. Again, another question that's usually always on the final, always on the AP exam. Nation doesn't usually do that well. So government spends and aggregate demand goes right. Now, where does government get the money? They go borrow it in the loanable funds, all right? So demand for loanable funds increases, interest rates go up. We know if interest rates go up, business investment goes down. So what happens in crowding out? Business investment goes down, and we don't get the full effect of the multiplier. So crowding out occurs because government spending drives interest rates up, which decreases business investment. Okay? All right. Shifters of the LRAS. By the way, okay, I'll just go. Capital stock. That's like and business investment. That's machines, equipment, increase or decrease in natural resources, increase or decrease in human resources, and technology. Now, those are the same shifters really of the production possibilities curve, except we really don't use capital stock. And I usually say increase or decrease of quantity or quality of resources. I just broke out human and natural resources there. Anytime they talk about economic growth, they are talking about in the long run. So a shift in aggregate demand does not equate economic growth. It's shifting the LRAS curve or the production possibilities curve. Any questions? Okay. All right. All right, so aggregate demand is all the goods and services that buyers are willing and able to purchase at different price levels. All right, and I think you know there's an inverse relationship between price level and real GDP. When price levels go up, quantity demanded or quantity aggregately demanded goes down. Okay. All right. All right, here is, for whatever reason, one of their hitting, like why is aggregate demand downward sloping? So one is the real balance effect / wealth effect. They're the same thing called two different things. And all this is when price levels go up, purchasing power goes down. Okay, if the price level, if Coke is $1 and I have $10, I can buy 10 Cokes. If it goes up to $2, I can only buy 5. So the real balance effect or the wealth effect is when price levels change, purchasing power changes. That's all it is. Okay. Second is the interest rate effect. We kind of talked about this just now in a way in crowding out. When price levels go up, the demand for money increases. So interest rates go up, all right? Higher interest rates discourage investment and consumer spending. Now, why? Banks don't want to borrow at higher interest. Businesses don't want to borrow at higher interest rates because then they have to pay back more money on their loans. Consumers, like for cars or more expensive things, don't want to borrow because interest rates are high. So high interest rates discourage investment and consumer spending, two things that make up aggregate demand. So that's the interest rate effect. All right, so we've got wealth effect and real balance effect, which is purchasing power. We've got the interest rate effect. And then the third thing, foreign trade. When price levels are up in the United States, people do not want to buy our goods. All right, so exports go down, and that's another aggregate demand, another ingredient of aggregate demand. All right, so again, we have three things, three reasons. We got the real balance wealth effect, which is about purchasing power. We got the interest rate effect, which is when interest rates go up, business investment and consumption goes down. And then we have the foreign trade effect, which is when price levels go up, people don't want to buy our goods. All right, so those are the three there. All right, there are your shifters of aggregate demand: consumption, investment, government spending, net exports. Remember, it's net exports, exports minus imports. Consumption, investment, government spending, net exports. I'll give you a couple of examples of each. All right, so change in consumption. Anything that changes wealth, so increase in the stock market, that would get us where we have more money. Increase in income, that would get us more money. Optimism always shifts aggregate demand right. Pessimism always shifts aggregate demand left. Why? If we're optimistic, businesses are going to build more restaurants, that's investment. Consumers are going to spend more because they think they're going to make more. And the opposite there. All right, less taxes. If my taxes are lowered, I then have more money to spend, consumption increases. And that's income taxes, by the way. All right, investment spending, we talked about it. High interest rates, investment spending down. Low interest rates, investment spending up. Investment spending, nothing to do with stocks and bonds. Okay, interest rates high, investment spending down. Interest rates low, investment spending up. Okay. All right. Now, if business taxes go down, investment spending increases. Why? Because businesses have more money, so they'll invest and buy capital or equipment or things like that. All right. Government spending. All right. Increased government spending, aggregate demand goes right. Decreased aggregate demand goes left. Remember, government spending is fiscal policy. All right. So if fiscal policy is government spending and taxes. So increased government spending, aggregate demand goes right. Decrease, it goes left. Okay. Now, income abroad, how does that affect net export? If Japan's income increases, they have more money to buy Japanese goods and also American goods, so our exports would increase. If their income goes down, they're going to buy less of our goods. Okay. And then we learned about exchange rates. If the dollar appreciates, it makes our goods look expensive. People are not going to buy it. If it depreciates, it makes our goods look cheaper. So people will buy. All right. So those are really the shifters: consumption, investment, government spending, net exports. Any questions on the shifters of aggregate demand? Sorry, I know I'm doing all the talking. All right. Aggregate supply. Here's the key. I don't think like differentiate between short. That's what I think you need. In the short run, which is an upward sloping aggregate supply curve, wages and resources do not increase. They're sticky. All right. So in the short run, wages and resource prices are sticky. In the long run, they're flexible. Okay. And that's when you have a perfectly inelastic or perfectly vertical long run aggregate supply curve. And just remember, the long run aggregate supply curve is potential output and full employment. Okay, so the long run aggregate supply curve is potential output. So that's the output if we're at full employment we're supposed to make, and it's also full employment. All right, 3 shifters of supply, RAP. First one is resource prices. Labor is a resource. Oil is a resource. Wages are resources. When they want you to think of consumption, they're going to say income in the United States increases and decreases. When they're talking about resources, it's wages increase and decrease. Okay? And oil, don't think of oil as a net export unless they are very specific. Think of oil as a resource price. Okay. Now I put oil in. All right, actions of government. This is tricky. Why isn't it government spending? This is taxes and subsidies on businesses. Now, an increase in business tax is going to shift supply left. It also, because now businesses have less money, it's also going to shift aggregate demand left because businesses have less money to invest. So taxes on businesses can be a double shifter. All right, subsidies and then regulations. So like if President Biden puts in more regulations for cars for pollution, that's going to make cars more expensive, all right, to make. So aggregate supply would shift left. All right, now government spending would be adding more military, buying more tanks, building highways. That's government spending. Actions of government are taxes and subsidies. And the last one is productivity, which is usually technology. All right, so your RAP is resources, really an emphasis on wages, oil, because those are the ones that trick guys, actions of government, and productivity. All right, any questions on the shifters? Okay. All right, here's your 3 kind of, I might have put 2 or 3. One is demand pull inflation. All right, what is that? All that is aggregate demand shifting right. You have now an inflationary gap, right? You're in the short run, there you are. That's demand pull inflation. Nothing tricky. Okay. All right, inflationary gap. All right, cost push inflation. They asked this way more. Cost push inflation would be OPEC stops selling the United States oil. Okay, oil supply down, aggregate supply left. Now, cost push inflation is stagflation. They're the same thing, different ways of saying. Why? We've got price levels going up and output going down. So stag is stagnate of production, and in stagflation, higher prices. All right. This is one that they always ask questions on. So I would take note of it. All right. It's a negative supply shock, leftward aggregate supply shift. And there you have your stagflation. And any time, by the way, we're to the left of LRAS, that is cyclical unemployment. Remember, full employment is frictional and structural unemployment. So where it says LRAS equal full employment, that would be 4 to 6% unemployment. That's structural and frictional. All right, and this is your recessionary gap. All right, and that's just showing you cyclical unemployment. I don't know why I decided to do that, but there it is again. Anytime you're to the left of the LRAS, you have cyclical unemployment. That's a recessionary gap. All right. I don't know, I think I left blanks on the spot here, but here is the Keynes. So it's the Keynes versus the classical. So here's the key. The classical is like the long run aggregate supply. They believe wages are flexible, all right? And because wages are flexible, what's going to happen? When aggregate demand shifts down, price levels go down, so that's going to give people incentive to buy more, and the economy will fix itself. So the big thing with the classical is they don't believe in government intervention. So it's the kind of perfectly vertical line and no government intervention because they think wages are flexible. Keynes, if you remember, is kind of that three-step curve. Okay. And he says wages are sticky. So his big thing is now, if aggregate demand goes down, price levels don't change. So there is no incentive for consumers to buy. So government has to intervene. All right. So Keynes is a big proponent of government intervention, which is, fiscal policy, either government spending or decreasing taxes, or monetary policy to shift AD. All right. So that's Keynes. The perfectly horizontal line is like the Keynes part. The kind of, I don't know, as it circles up would be the intermediate, and then the perfectly vertical line is the classical. I might have. Okay. So here, that's the horizontal is the Keynes, then the intermediate range, and the classical. All right, questions between Keynes and classical? All right. Now, I'm going to tell you, when they ask you about fiscal or monetary policy, almost every question, you can knock out 2 or 3 of the distractors, because they can ask you about fiscal policy, and they'll talk about reserve requirement, buying bonds, or changing the discount rate. None of them is fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is government spending and taxes. All right? Monetary policy consists of ROD, which is reserve requirement, open market operations, and discount rate. So read those carefully and you'll be in good shape. So actions by government, right? That's discretionary or monetary. So today we're only going to talk about fiscal. Tomorrow I'll talk about monetary. All right, here we are. 2 types. There's the discretionary, which is Congress creates a law. All right, that's either government spending or taxing, one or the other. All right, anytime you deal with Congress, all the Republicans vote no on the Democrats vote no on the Republican bills. It takes forever to get something passed. All right. Non-discretionary is the automatic stabilizers. So say in COVID, while they're trying to work out the tax bill, we have unemployment insurance, we have welfare, We have things to take care of things. Now, in bad times, that's going to run a big deficit because we're bringing in less tax revenue and we're spending more. Theoretically, in good times, we're bringing in more tax revenue and spending less. That just doesn't happen anymore, but that's the theory. All right. So the automatic stabilizers, welfare, unemployment, minimum wage. All right. But usually when they're talking about fiscal policy, we're talking government spending and taxes. All right. So expansionary. Nate, how do I expand the economy with fiscal policy?
You can either lower the tax rate for businesses to increase investment, or you can increase government spending.
Okay, great. So I want to reduce unemployment, increase GDP, I increase government spending, decrease taxes, or both, as Nate did. And that's going to shift AD to the right. Contractionary. Patrick, how am I going to contract the economy?
You can do that by increasing taxes or decreasing government spending.
Okay, there it is. Those are the only things you can do fiscal policy-wise. All right? So just memorize what fiscal policy is, and you are going to be in good shape. All right, now the marginal propensity to consume. It's how much people consume rather than save. So if I get another $100, what percent of that will I save and what percent will I consume? All right, and it's a fraction. So the marginal propensity to consume is change in consumption over change in income. So if I got a $100 raise and I spent 80, my marginal propensity to consume would be 0.8. Now, the marginal propensity to save is the change in savings over the change in income. They have to equal 1. Why? Because all I can do is save and consume. So if the marginal propensity to save would be 20, because I spent 80 over 100, so that'd be 0.2. All right, so if I know my marginal propensity to consume, I have to know my marginal propensity to save because they're going to equal 1. Okay. And there I talked about it, but here it is, change in savings over change in income. All right. And again, 1, marginal propensity to save plus marginal propensity to consume equals 1. All right. All right. Here is the spending multiplier. 1 over MPS or 1 over 1 minus MPC. 1 minus MPC is MPS. Whichever one of these is more familiar, easier with you, it's fine. So if I was going, the MPC is 0.7, I would know 1 minus 0.7 is 0.25. 1 over 0.25 is 4. That is going to be my spending multiplier. All right. This formula for the multiplier, I think, is you have to memorize. So the change in the GDP equals multiplier times initial spending. So we figured out the multiplier is 4. The initial change is 5. That gives you 20. Now, sometimes they give you the GDP and the multiplier, and you got to, so like sometimes they'll give you 20, you know it's 4, so it'd be 20 equals 4x, x equals 5. Sometimes they give you the GDP and the, if you know this formula, all these are simple, just plugins. So change in GDP equals multiplier times initial change in spending. And then the tax multiplier is 1 minus the spending multiplier. 1 minus the spending multiplier. Okay. want to just backtrack a second to go over something that I didn't really, that sometimes is, where could we do this? Okay. Okay. Chris, in this diagram up on the screen, are we in the short or long run?
The short run.
Short run. At Q1, are we making more or less product than QF?
More.
Do we need more or less workers?
More workers.
More workers. So when wages expire, the demand for workers increase, what's going to happen to wages?
They're going to decrease.
Other.
Or
Demand for
they're going
workers,
to increase, sorry.
they're going to increase. All right. If wages increase, what shifts?
Supply.
Which way?
To the left.
To the left, and that's how you get back to the long run. Okay, I didn't go over that long run. So just remember, those are the questions. Am I making more or less product? And let's get on this side. Pierce, am I making more or less product at Q1 than QF?
Less product.
Do I need more or less workers?
Less workers.
If I need less workers, the demand for workers is down. What's going to happen to wages?
Wages would decrease.
If wages decrease, what shifts?
The
I'm going to wrap you. Supply which way?
right.
Right. Okay. That's how you get to the short or long run. All right. I just wanted to make sure we went over that. Okay. I covered a lot. I talked a lot. I was really fast. Is there anyone who has any questions? Please ask questions. You're going to get quizzed.
Where will this be posted?
I videotaped it. I will send out the link to the video, okay? Is that what you wanted?
Yeah. Just I missed some stuff.
Yeah. Tell me to slow down, okay?
Okay.
All right, but I videoed it just in case. All right. Anyone else? Any questions? No? Okay. All right, remember you have to 11:59 today. Nick, could you put the poll everything in there? All right, if you guys could all please poll in. I stopped a little early, so you have time to do this. Could you poll in? How much did you learn today? Okay, let's just get a couple more guys, please. It shouldn't be that rigorous of a task. But. All right, any questions you have? And I saw someone just put a 5, which is fine, but then ask questions. What didn't you learn, or what do you need more clarified? So I can make sure to go over that. Someone put the types of unemployment. That was in the video. Okay, so that's last unit. Just want a little fair. Okay, some practice problems. Okay. Just quick, go yes or no, type in. Would you rather me videotape like this type of thing and do practice problems in class? Or do it the way I did it today? So yes, if you'd want videotape and practice problems in class. Yes or no? Just type yes or no. Oh, this is great. This is going to go 50-50. All right. All right, guys. Any suggestions? Last thing. Still have like a minute before class actually should end. Okay. All right, great suggestion. I'll do better next time. Anyone else? All right, guys, have a great day. I will talk to you tomorrow.